So it's literally 1 week since the Jamaica general election where we saw Prime Minister, the most honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, winning a third term as Prime Minister of Jamaica, creating history, being the first Jamaica Labour Party Prime Minister to win 3 consecutive terms. But in the streets today, what everybody is talking about is Marky G and the PNP. Should Mark Golding go or should he stay? And my personal belief is that I believe that Mark Golding should exit as leader of the opposition party, and I believe that he should do it sooner or later. Because I've said it before. I said it before the election, and I'm continuing to say it after. Mark Golding will never be the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, so let me share why I believe that Mark Golding will never be the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And a few weeks ago, before the election, I did a video, and in that video I asked, is the People's National Party still the party of Michael Manley? Because there's no doubt about it that Michael Manley was the most popular Prime Minister in the history of Jamaica. Despite everything that Michael Manley went through in the 70s, Michael Manley still remains Jamaica's most popular and most loved Prime Minister. And when I ask that question is because Michael Manley, even though Norman Manley was the founder, one of the founder of the People's National Party and the father of Michael Manley and a national hero, when you think about the People's National Party, you don't think about Norman Manley. When you think about the People's National Party, you think about Michael Manley. You think about Michael Manley, the poor people government, the man that fight for poor people in the 70s in Jamaica. And that is why Michael Manley was so loved amongst poor people. Michael Manley, the socialist government. So when you look at the People's National Party in 2025, can you honestly say to yourself that this is a socialist government? No, it's not. This is not the same poor people government from back in the 70s with Michael Manley. This is not even the same government that the socialist government that you look at when you say a Portia Simpson. This is a different government, and identity crisis is the first thing that Mark Golding is going to have to overcome to win an election and become Jamaica's Prime Minister, and I don't see that happening. Let me explain. Mark Golding is the richest party leader in the history of Jamaica. Mark Golding is the only leader of any political party in Jamaica that came into office as a million or a billionaire. Because we know Mark Golding and the Scotia DBNG, and Mark Golding made a lot of money in business. So the challenge for Mark Golding is to convince a socialist movement, the People's National Party, the party in Jamaica for poor people, the party that fights for poor people. Mark Golding, a million or billionaire leader of that party, is going to have to convince people that him as a million or billionaire cares about the poor people, that he's going to put things in place that will benefit poor people. And I think that is the challenge that Mark Golding is going to face if he tried to stay and go forward. Because remember, Mark Golding, I know people are crediting Mark Golding for the 28th seat, but I personally believe that anyone else, Lisa Anna, even Damian Crawford, as inexperienced as Damian Crawford is, I believe that a Lisa Anna or Damian Crawford would have won the election based on many reasons. First, the reason why it's only been done one time in Jamaica, in the history of Jamaica, and it was done by PJ Patterson to win 3 terms straight. It is a difficult thing. Voter fatigue. People, Jamaicans don't like seeing one party in power for too long. And the reason why PJ Patterson was the only prime minister in the history of Jamaica to do it, that is the reason. Jamaicans want change. And I could sense that Jamaicans wanted a change with all that went on during the pandemic, with all that went on with the Integrity Commission I could sense that Jamaican wanted a change, and I said that earlier. But they are saying like, look, we want a change, but we don't trust Mark Golding, so let's stick with the person that we know. And that is what Mark Golding is going to have to get over. The second reason why I don't think Mark Golding will ever be the Prime Minister of Jamaica is that Mark Golding looks fake. He comes off as being fake. I'm not saying that he's fake, but he looks fake. And one thing with Jamaicans, like if you don't look like you're comfortable in what you're doing, they are just never going to trust you. And it's not because of his race or anything like that. But one of the things I've observed when watching Mark Golding is like Mark Golding goes out of his way to be like one of the youth them in the street. Like, you know, I've seen many interviews where he's like he's trying to convince people like, yo, me used to go to Raytown and me love reggae music and dancehall music and Raytown was my place or this or that. And it just come off as inauthentic. And I don't know how Mark Golding can fix that, but that is just based on, that is my opinion. When I'm watching Mark Golding on doing interviews, I saw him on the Fix podcast. I saw him on the Let's Be Honest podcast, the recent one that he did. And in that interview, whenever he's trying to be like authentically Jamaican, like it just come off as like fake. And I'm not saying he's fake because I know he's Jamaican. I know he probably love reggae music, dancehall music. I'm not doubting any of that. But when you're watching the interviews and you're seeing it, he just don't seem authentic in the way like he's delivering it. And as I said, I'm not saying that because of his race, because Mr. Edward Seaga was white. I had the opportunity on numerous occasions to interact, to talk with Mr. Seaga. Mr. Seaga seemed like one of the youth them in the street. When you see Mr. Seaga was the owner of Sonic Sounds back in the days before he sold it to Byron Lee. So Mr. Seaga was heavily involved in music. He was like one of the man them in the street. And a lot of the youths, like whether Tivoli Garden or wherever, could relate to Edward Seaga. So it's not about the race or whatever, but he just don't come off as authentic. And that is a part of the identity also. When you're the People's National Party, the party for poor people, and you come across as this like, you know, billionaire, like upscale type of thing, like not down to earth, you're just not connecting with the people. And I think that, I'm not saying he would not be a good leader, but time and place. And the thing is like being the head of the Socialist Party, Michael Manley Party, because one thing for people who knew Michael Manley was not black also. Michael Manley was as like a rude boy, like they used to look at Michael Manley, people used to see him as like a gallus back in the days and stuff like that. So a lot of poor people loved Michael Manley for that because, you know, he had that image. And that is one of the things that I believe that Mark Golding is missing, being the head of the People's National Party. You know what is funny too? What is funny though? Like, I believe that Mark Golding would have had a better chance if he was in the Jamaica Labour Party, because the Jamaica Labour Party is the party of capitalism. They believe in big business and they believe in funding business, and if the rich succeed, the poor will succeed also. That is the model of capitalism, and Mark Golding seems like more of a capitalist than a socialist. So because of those reasons, I just don't believe Mark Golding at the head of the People's National Party, the Socialist Party, Michael Manley Party. And that is the reason why during the election cycle, you saw more of Damian Crawford trying to rile up the crowd, trying to get the crowd going, try to put some buzzwords out there and try to come up with some slang on the campaign. That was Damian. Damian Crawford was like Mark Golding hype man during the election. And that, going forward, that is just not going to work. So because of those reasons, I believe that the best thing for Mark Golding to do is to step aside and to give someone else a chance. And if I'm going to take Mark Golding at his word, because Mark Golding in an interview said that he was pretty much like dragged into politics. Like he was, after he sold DB&G, he wanted to just go ahead and do his business. He's in investment banking. He just wanted to go ahead and do that. And he said like Portia Simpson drag him, like pull him back into the party. And he was pretty much like delegates or people were like saying, come on, the leadership is available, run for the leadership. So based on that, it's not, Mark Golding's not a career politician. Mark Golding's a businessman. Most leaders of the party that we have had in Jamaica history is, Bustamante, trade unionist, Michael Manley, trade unionist, like lawyers, doctors. Mark Golding is one of the first business entrepreneur, billionaire that we have seen in the space. And as I said, with a socialist party, it's like oil and water. It just don't go together. And I believe, and even Damian Crawford said it. Damian Crawford said in that leak recording that came out 4 years ago, Damian Crawford said in that recording that he best represent what the party is. Him, Damian Crawford, best represent the Michael Manley PNP. That is what he said in that video. And that is very true. When you think about Damian Crawford, a youth come from the ghetto and a youth fight him way up and now he's in politics. And Damian Crawford is very passionate about education. You can like love him or hate him. Damian Crawford is very passionate about education, very passionate about young people, very passionate about the poor. So I believe that Damian Crawford, even though he's not mature yet, I believe that he would be a better head of the People's National Party than Mark Golding. And the final reason why I don't believe that Mark Golding will ever be the Prime Minister of Jamaica is that what we saw Dr. Andrew Holness did, it's pretty much like a blueprint of how to get Mark Golding out of the game. And what I observed during the election is that the Prime Minister pretty much used Mark Golding's privilege against him. And that is going to be used in the next election. Whether he would go up against Andrew Holness or anybody else, that would be used against him also. And that is politics. That is how politics work. You saw on one of the campaign, one of the big rally, I think it was the one in Halfway Tree, where the Prime Minister said, look, this man is against the rural school bus system, but this man never take a bus in his life. This man was privileged and so forth. So the Prime Minister constantly use it and we saw Olivia Babsy Grange also say like, look, he's not one of us. He's not like us. You know the Drake song, he's not like us. So that is going to be used against him also. And people can look at that and say, yo, like politics dirty and why them have to do that or whatever. But remember, PJ Patterson used the same thing against Edward Seaga. And when watching the campaign, the political rally, it's almost like I got the sense that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, that he was avenging some of the things that Edward Seaga went through, because Edward Seaga was the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party for 30 years, and he only won 2 elections. 8 years out of the 30 years, he was Prime Minister. So that is a dismal record, if you ask anyone. And one of the reasons for that is because when, I think, 1993, when the party was handed over to PJ Patterson, and PJ Patterson come and say, black man time now. Black man time now, like, he's not one of us. And Edward Seaga lost to PJ Patterson 3 times. And that is how PJ Patterson became the first Prime Minister to ever win 3 consecutive terms. So it's all fear. It's like a battlefield out there. So if PJ Patterson could have used it back in the days, you can't blame Andrew Holness for using Mark Golding's privilege against him. So that is my reason why I just don't see it. I don't see Mark Golding becoming the Prime Minister. I think the best thing for Mark Golding to do is to, as I said, between now and next year, to kind of step down and to have like a serious meeting, a closed door meeting with the members of the People's National Party. And I think they can't really have, I don't see any value in them having one of those internal election that is so like toxic. I think they're just going to have to come to an agreement and say, look, make we just pick somebody. Pick Damian Crawford. He's the one that best represent the party. And let's just pick him and all of us rally behind him or something. Something like that is going to have to be happening, because what happened with Portia Simpson cannot happen again. What happened with Lisa Hanna cannot happen again, because the People's National Party have a bad track record of having their internal fight and it's not staying inside. Like something is leaked to the media, and because of that, whether delegates or members of the party, it just have a fracture in the party. And you cannot win an election if you're not united. You have to be as united as possible as a political party if you're going to win an election, because everybody is important. We look and we see the 63, 64 candidates for member of parliament. They are not the most important. The delegates are very important to people on the ground are important. And if you have one of those internal fighting like what happened with Portia Simpson and what happened with Lisa Hanna, and the delegates get split up, then the party is going to be divided. So guys, sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this. Do you believe that Mark Golding should step away from the People's National Party, head of the People's National Party, and hand it over to someone young and dynamic like a Damian Crawford or Raymond Price or Isaac Buchanan? Name someone that you believe that could lead the People's National Party to a victory over Andrew Holness the next election. Let me know in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.